Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, this is Pari.
And this is Jenny, and we're here to talk about
These
these books.
It's nice that we've gotten into like a rhythm. We could be hired out for recording
Yes.
services that synchronize.
Yes.
But I think it's as long as it's just about these books.
No, exactly. I'm not sure
Everything
how
else.
popular that's going to be in a wider.
I don't know. I think we could sell it. These books, these books, or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, this one thing we do well.
Yes, we
I've
do.
also noticed my earrings are quite jingly jangly.
Mhm.
ASMR for those who become multi-purpose. Like we
Yes.
synchronize and we have background music. Well, anyway, the theme that we gave us for today is transport.
It is indeed.
And I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is the weirdest mode of transport you've ever been transported on?
Oh, I think when I was young at the seaside, one of those big kind of 4 people bike canopy things, which I'm sure have a name.
I have no idea what you're
Sorry.
talking about.
So you usually get them at the seaside, and you usually do it up and down like the concrete bit before the sand that
Oh,
has a
okay.
special name which I can't remember.
Okay.
And usually it's like I've seen them 2, but mostly they're 4. So 2 seats and then 2 seats, and you all have like pedals, and you move the pedals. You're looking incredulous.
Are you sure this exists? And it's not like a fever dream you had?
No, not now. Thank you very much.
To be fair, I haven't been to the seaside a lot
Mhm.
in this country because I used to be very optimistic about beaches in the UK until I realized a lot of the beaches are just stones, are just pebbles, and you call them beaches. And then I felt a bit betrayed. And now I have to be like, I have to make sure there's sand.
Mhm.
And it's rarer than you would think for a country that is an island. Yeah.
No, that's true. Now I'm trying to think of something that does exist, because that might just be something from the 80s. But having on a pedalo, which is like a kind of floating thing that goes on the water and you pedal.
Oh, so you're very peggy focused today.
I mean, you put me on a bike and I would hiss at you, but
Oh,
yes.
right. So it's like things that other people are also responsible
Yes,
for. So it's not
yes.
just you.
I've also been on a tandem bike,
Oh,
which is yes, you know what that is.
So it's pedals and other people.
Yes, I
That's
think-
what you like.
yeah.
Okay.
Moving swiftly on. How about you, Pari? You're going to say hot air balloon, and I'm going to say that doesn't exist.
Well, I have been on a camel,
Oh,
and that was really good in the desert.
Mhm.
And that was
where
nice.
there is sand.
There is sand, and there were other people, but not on my camel.
Okay.
So there were people on other camels, my friends.
Uh-huh.
But my most fun experience, I think, was on the roof of a bus.
You were on the roof of a bus.
I was on the roof of a bus.
Not just an open-topped bus.
No,
An
it was
actual
an
roof.
actual roof. It's because me and my friends were on holiday, and we're city girls, okay? Like
Uh-huh.
we live in cities, but we were traveling in this like other part of India, and we use public transport a lot to get to and from places. So we'd gone on a bus, and we were going to another city. And we saw, but it went through rural parts, and because it was really crowded, we saw people getting on top of the bus once we'd gone inside, and we looked at each other and we were like, we have to go on the roof of the bus. So we went to the driver and said, do you think, and like there were 3 of us, and we did not look like we belonged
Mhm.
in that place at all. So nobody else, I think, would be excited to get on the roof of the bus. Like for the other people, the locals, that was just like a way of getting to a place. And the driver looked very amused. And he said, not right now, but there's like a bit where there's no trees and things that will like knock you over, you inexperienced fools. So I'll tell you.
Mhm.
And we thought it was just a polite way of like, popping
no.
us off. Yeah. But he did like get us on, and then we got climbed up on the bus.
Oh.
And we have a photo of it. Then more people started coming in, and they were all very amused by how excited we were. Then at one point, I think there was a goat with us as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So it was quite adventurous.
Assuming this is a single-decker bus,
Yes.
not a double-decker.
Oh, yes.
And did you have to like lie flat on it?
No.
Or was there hand
So there was like a bit at the edges, like I think that's for luggage and stuff. So we were basically luggage.
Right, okay.
So there was a sort of railing around, but no, there were other people. We were sort of relying on them to not let us fall off. There were lots of people on the roof. It wasn't just
And
the
did you
three of
have to
us.
clamber up, or was
We
it?
did.
Oh,
Yes, but there's like a laddery bit at the back
okay.
because it seems to be taken for granted that people will sit on the roof
Right,
of the bus.
okay.
And it was great. It was one of my top 3 experiences,
Okay.
transport experiences, and maybe even life experiences.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite fun, but it was no pedaling in an imaginary vehicle in the sea, along the sea, in the sea.
There is research happening
Yes.
after this episode, I can tell you that.
Well, what about your transport-related books?
Well, I'm going to show you, Pari, sorry.
Okay.
So my first one is
Ooh,
Dream Slinger.
I haven't seen this book.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is gorgeous.
Dream Slinger by Gracie Kim, and I have post-it notes sticking out
A
of it.
lot of them,
Mhm.
yeah.
And The Paris Express
Ah,
by Emma Donoghue.
yes.
Mhm.
You sounded like you were asking me if that's how you pronounce it. I said yes, but I have no idea. It could be like
It is now.
Dongue, maybe.
It could be.
It could
Dono-
be. You'd think there was an alphabet missing between G and H, but
Yes.
I think we're overthinking this
Yes,
now.
we are. We're
Yeah.
going to say Emma Donoghue.
Yes. So with the Paris Express, I see it's a train that is the mode of
Yes.
transport. With the Dream Singer, there is a beautiful dragon
Mhm.
at the back, and is that the mode of
It
transport?
is not, and I'm going to keep you in suspense.
I am, in fact, suspense.
What about yours?
So I have 2, potentially 3 books, and 2 of them are a bit of a cheat,
Okay.
but one of them is following my classics project.
Okay, we talked about this last time. that
Yes.
You're going to try and put a classic in with B's suggestion.
Yes, just because I feel like I'm ready now
Uh-huh.
to commit myself to long and difficult books.
And I
Well,
laughed. I scoffed
you did?
last time.
And I was so excited to think of this perfect book for this perfect theme because it is Around the World in 80 Days
Oh, and that is
by
perfect.
Jules Verne. Yes. It's a book that I'd read like about 10 years ago for the first time.
Mhm.
And I listened to the audiobook version now.
Mhm.
And lots of transport. There's like this transport flowing. Like
Is there a
just,
hot air balloon in that?
there isn't. He mentions it.
Okay.
But according to I did some research on the book, there was like a sort of spoof story of it that was written a few years or maybe a few decades after this book came out. And in that, or a play or something, and in that, they made it a hot air balloon from the US to the UK. And Jules Verne, when he heard of it, because he was alive, he's like, that's ridiculous. That would never happen. It's very. So the sort of protagonist in this just consider it because he's trapped and he's like, oh, but that's very impractical. So he scoffs at the idea. The second book that I have is called This Golden Fleece, A Journey Through Britain's Knitted History by Esther Rutter. And look at this beautiful map, a knitted map that, well, it's a landscape of England or maybe
beautiful.
Scotland. Yeah, so it is what it says on the tin. It's about
Excellent.
the different knitting traditions and histories in different parts of the UK. So wherever she goes, and she's traveling a lot to all these different places.
Okay.
And then my third book is a picture book that I don't know if I'll have time to read to talk about because this Golden Fleece is not in our libraries, but it could be
Okay.
because I really enjoyed it and I think I will recommend it to a librarian. But this used to be on our shelves, this picture book. It's called Last Stop on Market Street by Matt de la Pena, and the pictures are by Christian Robinson. And as you see on the cover of the book, it's a bus.
A bus,
It's
yeah.
about a grandmom and her grandson going on a bus journey, which sounds like, what is this book about? But I'll talk to you more about it
Excellent.
once we go on.
Okay.
So do you want to start with one of your, you're not
I-
mystery books.
No,
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the Paris Express.
Okay.
I'm going to put my glasses on for this, Barry, because I want to get things right this
Right.
week. So Paris Express by Emma. So just calling it Emma now. I guess on the front there is a train. And the Paris Express sounds like, it's going to be about a train anyway, the Orient Express, etc.,
Yes.
etc. So it's set in 1895. And basically it's an odd story. It's a story of many people's stories of the train journey. So it's kind of based on a real train journey that happened in 1850. 1895.
Well done. Without your glasses. You're very confident you took your glasses off in like a minute.
No, exactly.
Yes.
So it's a few different people that are travelling on this train at the time. Some of them are historically correct. Some of them are just Emma's made an educated guess who would be on the train at the time. Our main character, well, not our main character, but one of the characters is called Mado. And she gets on at a station, I think, called Granville. And she's travelling to Paris. She has a lunch pail. So it's basically like, to me, it's like kind of galvanised bucket with a lid on it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, basically it's quite a long journey. I can't remember how long it is now, but it's hours long to get from one side to another. And, she gets on the train, and then you kind of meet some of the other people she shares a carriage with. You meet some of the people who are in first class. You meet some people who are kind of in between, not first class and first class, which is probably middle class. No, it won't be middle class. It'll be...
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry. I read this a wee while ago. But basically, you are hearing each, of their voices, kind of a thing. You're also hearing from the driver and the person who's stroking the engine. You're hearing from the person who's dealing with the baggage, and you hear it a couple of times from the train itself. Which is interesting. Basically, it's just the train kind of has to go forward. That's what the train does. But sometimes it's aware of who's on the train. That's making it kind of sound slightly spooky or magical. It's not. It's just,
I mean, you said a train, we see it from the perspective of the train. So it doesn't sound like a non-magical.
No, that's true. That's true. Emma's other books are also quite strange. I've read a couple of her books. The Room, for example, is one of them, which made recently into a movie. The Wonder, I think, has also been made into a movie recently. And they all have, I wouldn't say magic, but they all have a touch of something else, something beyond, if you know what I mean. There's not too much of that in this, just the fact that the train, it doesn't talk. It's not like Thomas Tank Engine, it doesn't talk. But it just has...
It's sentient.
In a way, yes. Yes. Anyway, I can't say that I loved it. It's not a book I would have picked up if I hadn't been looking for a book for B's books.
Right.
But in a way, I'm glad I read it because I learned things from it. So apparently this journey was an actual journey that happened, and it doesn't end particularly well for some people, not to give anything away. Which you don't know while you're reading it, because I didn't know anything about it before I started it. And it's set at a pace that feels like a train's pace, if you know what I mean. Like, it's kind of short chapters, it's quite a quick book to read, if that makes sense. It's not in a kind of, the big famous poem about train journeys. It's not like that, but it's got that kind of pace to it. Something's going to happen, and it does build up as you're going along, and you think what's going to happen has to do with this girl Mado,
the lunch pail girl.
Yes, yes. During that time in France, it was very, as it is all over the world at all times, usually, people are not happy with governments, people are not happy with how things are happening in the...
but France famously went in like a very extra direction.
So there's kind of, I don't want to say revolutionaries, but there are people that are unhappy with the situation. On board the train there are some people sort of in the government as well who've came because they're going to some kind of big meeting, kind of a thing. It's not just me being vague, it is quite vague because I'm not particularly knowledgeable about that kind of time in France, who would be doing what at that time, but you don't need to be, because she explains what you need to know, kind of a thing, which is really good. You also see it from this lady who works for kind of rich families, and she's kind of poor, but she gets a lot of money. But what she does is she helps people with her money. So she lives a very kind of frugal life. saves up her money, and then she occasionally gives it to somebody who needs it, if that makes sense. So she's kind of looking on this train. She's just been sent away for, you know, a holiday basically, which she didn't really want to do. She didn't really enjoy. You know, she slept in the train station and things like that instead of taking a hotel, because she wants money that she was given to go on this holiday so she can help somebody else.
Oh, live a little. Like, calm yourself, woman.
You kind of feel that she's doing a good thing, but yes, there is a bit of you that kind of says,
Don't be a martyr.
yeah,
Like,
have lunch.
yes,
Yeah.
find shelter, like food, shelter,
Yes.
clothing, you know.
But she's kind of seen what's happening as well. There's a bit of a, not romance as such, but you know, there's a couple of people who meet that in a different story, in a different life, would have got together, but you find out that they don't. They're just kind of, you know, had an interest at that time and then separate, kind of a thing, go on their way after the train journey. You learn a bit about how the trains work as well. So like who was really in charge of the train, who, you know, whose job was what. So in that way, it was quite an interesting book. So yeah, I wouldn't have picked it up, but I'm glad I read it. And I'm going to spoil it just a little bit, I'm afraid. So at the end, you think that something's going to happen. This build up and this build up and this build up. And then something completely different happens that you weren't really expecting. So when you hear from the driver and the staff, you realise at that time the trains were kind of, you were paid what you were paid, but if you were late, it seems to be almost like at the end of the year, you know, it was, you didn't get a bonus or something was deducted. So if you were ahead of your time, all that kind of thing. So you've learned from the staff that they know what hills to go faster on, what hills to go slower on, where they can make up time, etc., etc. But there's an unscheduled stop, and a new carriage is kind of put in the middle of the train, which I found quite fascinating, because they had to like separate the train, drive forward a bit, then this carriage came in at the side, and then they kind of, you know, attached it all. And it's this was quite interesting to me. So it was like a kind of coach built section to the train. So somebody had like put a lot of money into building this thing because his wife's poorly and she wanted to get around. So he actually built this carriage to her standards. So there's like a you know, like a bath in it, and there's a big huge bed and all this kind of stuff. And you get the kind of feeling that he's quite rich, and you know,
I mean, who else would be able to build an
yeah.
entire
So he's kind of, so this stop, which only takes, I think it's about 8 to 10 minutes, which I think is quite fast to join another carriage into the middle of the train, knocks back their journey. So obviously the staff are thinking, well, that's it, we don't get our Christmas bonus, you know, there's nothing much more we can do. We've used, you know, we've kind of not used as much coal as we would, but now we're going to have to use that to kind of make it up. So there's loads and loads of different stories happening throughout the main story. And I thought it was interesting. And now I'm talking about it, I enjoyed it more than I thought I did, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I liked the ending, and I'll talk to Pari about the ending afterwards when nobody's listening. And there was a picture as well, because there was like an actual photograph taken at the time. And you know, you hear a wee bit at the end of the story, she kind of puts in who were real people and what happened to them, and who she kind of not made up, but you know, guesstimated who would be on the train, kind of a thing. Also, the train's very different. You know, you are a train person. You like your
I
train.
love my train.
I wouldn't recommend going on the top of a train like you did with your bus. But
I think that might be a step too
Yes.
far. And that's, you know, I want some electrocution
no,
in my head.
exactly. But you know, this being a steam train, you probably could have
I
got
could have
away with
continued
it.
with it,
Yes, but it's quite, we take for granted that you can get on a carriage on a train and walk to the other end of the train if you wanted to, you know, that there'll be a toilet at some point in the train, that kind of thing. This is different. You know, the carriages were kind of separate. So if you wanted to go, you know, say there was 3 third-class carriages, you didn't like the people you were sitting with, it's not as if you could just, you know, like we would do, go, get up when a stop comes up and walk to the next carriage.
Yeah.
They'd have to wait, get off the train and then get back on again. Or they would have to chance their life and open the door as the train was moving, go out onto the kind of wee rail, and then like like step
Oh, they
across
must
the
really have
room.
hated their neighbours.
And one person does that. We don't really hear what happens, but I think he did it. You know, it was fine. Another couple of people want to kind of carriage hop, and they got off at a stop and got onto a different carriage. And you know, the person who's like collecting the tickets and things are making sure that they're not getting on first class when really they've paid for a third class ticket.
Yeah.
That's what it is. First class, second class, and third class.
Right.
Not middle class.
No. Yeah.
And end class.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a very interesting book. I mean, it fits into Bee's project very well because it is transport, it is trains. But as I say, I'm glad I read it, but I would not have picked it up.
Yeah, and that's good that, I mean, it gave you a sort of prompt or like an excuse to pick up something that's different. I think we fall into, like, I certainly do, comfort zones of, you know,
Absolutely.
reading the same kind of books.
Mhm.
And even if you pick up a book and it doesn't do exactly what you expect a book to do that you would have picked up, that is your comfort zone, if that makes sense. It's still nice to sort of look at things from
No.
different perspectives,
Absolutely.
especially in this where it's so chock full of
Yeah.
different
No,
perspectives.
and it's good because it's quite a small book. It's not a
Mhm.
big chunk of a book as well, so you don't feel as if you're labouring at any point with it.
Yeah.
And because it's kind of set, it's got quite a quick read to it. Like, you know, you're kind of going and going and going. You did fly through it, you know, as if you were on a train going somewhere really quickly.
I love the idea of it as well. I'm intrigued because in India, not here so much in the UK, but in India because it's a bigger country, if you travel by train to like a state that's further away, it could be an overnight journey. So I'm used to a lot of like long distance train travel, and it's really romanticized in India as well. Like I didn't do this as a child so much. But there are a lot of children who their holidays, like their summer holidays, would be visiting their parents in, you know, their hometown, and it would all, or like somewhere else, and it would all be a ritual. So different stations have different foods that are specific to that city or whatever. So you'd get off the train, or the sort of food sellers would come into the train and sell you things, and then there's meals on the train, and you sort of build communities like really temporary. So like what you were saying about the romance, I could imagine that happening even in terms of friendship, because when you are with like the same group of people for like 12 to 24 hours, whatever, it could be even more depending on where you're going. You just become friendly. You talk, people share food, because a lot of people, like lunch pill lady over here, carry their own food as well. They don't trust the train food, or they don't want to eat the train food. So they'll, you know, share things, and you'll share stories, and you'll share like where you're coming from, where you're going, some really personal, invasive questions, especially as a girl traveling alone in India. Lots of marriage questions. Everyone wanted to know when I was getting married. But it's just really nice. I miss that kind of, and it's not always like you said, like in this book as well. Sometimes they're really irritating people you don't want to, you know, be near, or they like snore at night. You're sleeping in bunk beds and you just want your peace and quiet, but it's still an experience, so much like an out of comfort zone book, like an out of comfort zone journey. But
Absolutely.
you're still glad that you did it. So it sounds actually, I might give it a shot. I think I would really like to listen to it as an audiobook and see, because it's so many different perspectives, like sort of envision it in that way, maybe even with different voices as
I think
well.
it would really work if it was different voices for each person.
Yeah, and the train.
And the train. Yeah, I'm not sure what the train would sound like, but
Yeah, like really jolly or maybe very sinister.
well, I'll not spoil it for you, but yeah,
Okay.
it could be either.
Oh,
Anyway,
that
that's
sounds
my
lovely.
train one.
Yes, so I'm going to talk about just quickly Around the World in 80 Days. So have you read this book ever?
I don't think I've read it. I've seen lots of screen adaptations,
Yeah.
which is why I vaguely remember a hot air balloon.
So perhaps one of them did, because that's quite a cinematic thing to portray,
Absolutely.
right? A hot air balloon. I don't think he was on a hot air. No, I know he was not on a hot air balloon. He dismissed it, but he was on pretty much everything else. So just for those who don't know, the premise is that Phileas Fogg, is that his name? Yes. He is this really mysterious person, because we meet him in the beginning of the book, but we don't really know much about him. There's no real backstory, except we know that he likes things to be done in a very specific way. So he has a timetable for his whole day, for his whole life. He gets up at a specific time and like eats breakfast, a specific breakfast at a specific time. Very punctual, very particular about things happening at the same time every day. And then most of the time he spends out of the house in his club, like I guess like a club for gentlemen or whatever. And that's where he eats and stuff. But he is very harsh with his manservants or whatever they were called, butlers.
What kind of year are we talking about?
1870s,
Okay.
I want to say. That's when he wrote this book. He's written other books that were more adventurous, like Journey to the Bottom of the Sea. That's not what it's called, but something like that. It goes to the center of the earth.
Center of the earth,
So
yes.
it's center of the earth, and there's some other volcano one, I want to say.
That's
Maybe
20
it's the same one.
20
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I was mixing up both of them. Yes, so he writes, but this one's just like very real. I mean, I say very realistic, mostly realistic. But what do I know? I've written on the top of a bus, so who knows what is real. But basically, there's been like a crime that's committed, and oh no, just before that, we meet the other protagonist, who is Passepartout, is how I think his name is pronounced. I listened to the audiobook, which is why I'm even guessing. He's this Frenchman who's had quite a wild sort of experience in the past, and now he wants like sort of person, I don't know, a boss, an employer.
So security, I
Yes,
suppose.
some like very sort of certain life, a very like orderly thing. He doesn't want surprises. He wants stability. So he thinks this is the perfect man. I heard so much about him. He's hired and he sees this timetable that his employer has, Fogg has, and he's like, okay, I can totally work with this. But on the same day, Phileas Fogg goes to his club as usual and he's talking to his, I don't want to say friends, I don't think any of them were friends, talks to his companions about this crime that's occurred, a bank robbery where a lot of money was stolen. And all these men are like, oh, this man is long gone. It's so easy to like go get to different parts of the world now because of all the transport and stuff. Whereas this other very like stern gentleman is like, what are you talking about? There's no way that he could have gone so far in such a short time. The police will apprehend him. And Fogg is like, we have so much innovation happening. It would be so easy to travel around the world in 80 days, is what he declares. I think I could do it. And then they have a bet. So he's like, I bet you £1,000. I don't know why I'm making this one. This is my club voice. I bet you
like it,
£1,000 that you couldn't do it. And Fogg, instead of saying, yes, okay, yes, let's do £1,000. Oh no, I am betting you £20,000, all my life savings
This is
that I
what
can do.
happens.
Outmanning each other.
Exactly.
So he decides, so he looks at the time, he looks at the day, okay, and then he calculates, okay, at 8:45 p.m. on whatever day after 80 days, I'm going to come back to this club and then you're going to lose all your money or whatever. I don't think he says it in that way. I've lost my club voice now. So that's basically the thing. So then this poor Frenchman, Passepartout, who's come in, he doesn't believe it at first. He's like, what do you mean we're just heading off? Like head off, they do. And it's all like a complete story of like mistaken identities, a lot of nonsensical transport adventures, like there's barriers, like some of the things are so easy, but then some ridiculous things will happen. And like he rescues a princess in India, and she comes along with them as well. And then he goes to encounters a lot of he goes on an elephant in India, as one does. I would say that, oh, that's so stereotypical, but there are elephants in India that walk around, so And it was very interesting as well, at least reading the India section, which he spends quite a lot of time in the beginning. Like, I think that's the section, the country that he first properly spends time in. And there's issues there with the trains and things. It's just laid out. And it was after the first war of independence in India, like from the British Empire. But before the second war of independence, so it was this weird time when the British had not fully ensconced themselves into the country, but they were there. So the East India Company had been okay, no, now the crown is going to own this country. So there wasn't, and the kinds of conversations that were probably happening here and he's from France anyway, Jules Verne, so he had his own like French colonies and things, but there wasn't it was very much a book of its time, because it was very much, oh yes, the British Empire owns all these countries like Hong Kong and like whatever things, Japan, and so China, and it's like, okay, yes, there's a very much a vibe of I can go wherever I want because this is British Empire land, so who's gonna stop me? But then in the middle of that as well, there's like again things that are getting in the way. So this one policeman also is on the trail because he is convinced that the bank robber is actually Phileas Fogg.
Oh.
Because he's like, nobody knows so much about him. He's, he's this mysterious character. And this Passepartout who's joined him, he also doesn't really know his master. What does he know? So he befriends him, the Inspector Fix befriends Passepartout, and he decides he's waiting for his arrest warrant. So he's applied for an arrest warrant for Fogg. But because he keeps moving with them, the arrest warrant is just a little bit further. And he's like, so he keeps trying to slow Fogg down in like different like underhanded but secretive ways, because he's like he has to be in the British territories for the warrant to count. So he keeps like sabotaging the mission a bit. But then in the end they reach the US after he's like done a lot of like he really tries to sabotage. But then once he's in the US, he's like, we're no longer in British territory because this is after American independence. And he's like, now I'm gonna work to hasten his journey because I want him to go to the UK or to England so that I can arrest him.
Yeah.
So it was all sorts of like weirdness was going on. And I think, so the first time I read this book, I just watched a play of it in Mumbai in India, and the play was fantastic. I still remember the actor who played Passepartout was so funny. Like it was a woman, but she was playing a man. Just amazing. So that I think colored my impression of the book a little. So I read that and I think I liked it better then than I liked it now. But it was still like lots of hijinks and adventures and just, I think it was originally written in French. And because he's like there's a French character as well, he gets into like French pride, like randomly, like someone will like say something disparaging about French people and he's like, hey, you wait, excuse me. No, this is not true. Like he's very quick to challenge stereotypes, which was quite funny, I thought. But it was like, yeah, it's really an adventure story because like there are things happening. You might know how it ends, but there are some things that come in and you're like, no, actually, no, I don't think this is how it's going to end, because then that wouldn't have happened. So you don't really see where it's going unless you know the story already through adaptations and stuff, or surprise hot air balloons, for example. But yeah, he goes by train, he goes by ship, he goes by yacht, he goes by elephant, he goes by a sled, he goes by a lot of different things and meets a lot of different kinds of people in the countries he visits. And also, when he was writing it at the time, he was writing it for the audience of the time, obviously. So he was writing about issues and things that were happening then. And from like an international perspective, I thought that was quite impressive that he was still like sort of trying to engage with like what was happening in the US, for example, or what was happening in India or Japan or Hong Kong and things. So interesting. It was a really good book. It was a really good experience reading the book.
So I think the most recent version I've seen was one with David Tennant in it. I'm sure there's a hot air balloon in that, but
who did he play?
Phileas Fogg.
Did he? Oh, I would definitely watch that. Yes, and I would believe him to fly a hot air balloon from the east coast of the US to Liverpool or whatever.
But there are some people out there that will remember, I think it was in the 80s, there was a cartoon version of it, but they were all animals.
So that's not what I thought you were going to say.
I'm pretty sure Phileas Fogg himself was a dog, and I think the princess was a cat.
Of course.
Yes, yeah. It was always on during the summer holidays.
Right.
And I think that's probably my first glimpse of that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I still remember it to this day. I still enjoy the memory of it. I'm sure if I'd seen it now, I'd be like, that's horrific. But
I think that's what adaptations get right, because like I say, this is very much a book of its time, even in terms of, well, the language, not so much, because I think whoever's done this translation for the book that I heard, the version that I heard, did keep in mind a little bit of modern sensibilities. But it wasn't so long ago that we're not like dealing with Shakespeare in English,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
example. So but it still feels like it's an old-timey book.
Mhm,
But the adaptations don't have to really like.
mhm. They were in Victorian outfits.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
great. I mean, I do love the aesthetic.
Yes, of a
But
dog with a
yes,
top hat.
yeah. And like she was obviously the cat was Indian, maybe wearing like a nice dress or a sari.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I like that, and the play that I watched as well. So I think it was like a European company who'd come to Mumbai
Ah.
and they were doing this and they localized some of the things for us because the Indian bits
Mhm.
especially. So I love that you can take this old story. You know, we both are fans of
Absolutely,
retellings
yes.
anyway.
Uh-huh.
And adaptations, even though they stick to the story, they can throw a secret hot air balloon in there, a secret dog that is
mean,
actually false.
I quite like the idea of a submarine.
Yes.
Because I'm taking in the original story there was no submarine.
No, even though he wrote 20,000 Leagues
No,
Under the Sea, so
exactly.
how dare he? How dare he not
Maybe he
think
didn't
of
want the
it?
two worlds to clash.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Which fair enough. But it is quite like I can see children as well really enjoying, if not the book.
Mhm.
There are, I think, children's like abridged versions of it
Mhm.
because it's such a when you think of an adventure story, how much more adventurous can
No,
you get?
absolutely.
And
the
the
whole world,
Yes.
basically.
But the premise of it, it's not so much like he doesn't really bother with really exploring the country. It's not a travel book
Yeah.
because he's like, no, we're on a clock.
Mhm.
So travel happens to him in spite of everything. Like, you know, like sort of some indigenous people in the US like kidnap 3 people because they're at war, the Sioux people, I think. And then in India, there's like all these things happening. But yeah, he's just there for the ride. And yeah, that's what you're there for too.
I like the idea that it was kind of a bet in, a very posh London club. And you wonder if you could do that nowadays without planning ahead. Because obviously he just basically went, we're going now.
Yeah. Yes.
Now you would need to do, I think, a lot more planning,
Yes.
even just to get out of the London club.
Well, I watched this really funny video of like these Irish comedians online who were sort of cosplaying as the British soldiers going to India for the first time. Oh no, the East India Company going to India for the first time and having to go through immigration like you would in like an airport. And just the kind of questions they were asking and the kind of very suspicious answers they were giving. I was like, yeah, even that aspect, like, you know, setting up a company and then taking over the country would be difficult. So yes, for sure. Like, although I think like a British passport might open up doors still today more than maybe the other. Like if an Indian was doing the like traveling around the world, they would have to go through a lot more immigration queues.
Yeah.
I think.
It'd be interesting to see. I know that we've got all these reality TV things. I can't remember what they're called. Race Across the World.
Oh,
things
yes.
like that.
I used to love that.
But
yeah.
again, I think you would need more planning. But I also think perhaps not as exciting things would happen to you as you were going along.
But I also think if I would love to do something like this, but I would focus more on the travel of it, like the sort of the experiencing the different countries and not just like ticking them off my list. Because for him, it was a project.
Yeah.
So he didn't really care about it. I don't think he'd ever left. Oh no, maybe he was a sailor, so maybe he had left London, but he didn't seem to be really interested in the place or the culture or the food. So I would love to go around the world by train. But like take a night off, like stay in a hotel. I don't know, like just.
But enjoy the country itself.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Ah,
yes.
Very good.
So what about your secret book?
So I'm kind of built it up there.
Yes.
It's not really a secret book. It's a secret transport. So Dream Slinger, Gracie Kim, and the transport that I want to talk about, I have put post-it notes, are called Gammas, Gama. And I shall read what they are like. It looked like a tall box with a door, 2 open windows, and a spacious interior that could fit about 3 adults. Blah, 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 blah. Some call them palanquins or litters, but we call them gamma. Traditionally, they were carried by servants, but our gamma are crafted from the wood of the soar-free tree, a common species found in the sleep, which I'll explain in a moment. And so they float. So they don't have anybody propelling them. They basically just float.
Okay.
And that's how they get about in this place that we're going to. You're going to love this book, I think. And I know I say that and then you'll go, no, I didn't love it, Jenny. But it's the kind of book that's up your street. So right at the beginning, we meet the main character, Aria. and we don't know what's going on. We know that they're in Texas in America, and there's some kind of magic or something happening, but we don't really know what's happening. Basically, some people are now born with this genetic kind of gene that means that they can do stuff in their sleep. And when they wake up, they seem to have powers. And in Texas, her father is trying to get all these people together into a kind of school where they'll learn how to basically control their powers. It almost seems as if kind of pushing them down. They have to wear kind of iron glove type things when they wake up. They go into a room and they expend all this energy into this room. No idea what's happening, Harry, not a Scooby. But you kind of go, right, okay. But then something happens. And basically our main character gets sent to Korea, where they do things slightly differently. And it looks as if...
You're right, it does sound like I would love
Yes.
that. Yeah.
It looks as if in Korea they kind of embrace this, whereas in America, and it seems to be elsewhere in the world, they all have their own take on this. So you just have to look at things like the X-Men. We know that there will always be people who, if they looked at somebody and they had some kind of mutation or something different about them, they'll immediately hate them and try to shut them down. And there'll be other people that will want to embrace it. There'll be people that will want to exploit it as well. So all this is happening. I want to make it clear, this is a junior fiction book. It does absolutely have lots of content to it, and I'm hoping it's going to be one of a series. She has kind of hinted, so that's good. Anyway, so Arya, basically something happens and the people from Korea say, this year we're going to open up our doors to some, I think they call them trialers. Basically some people can come and become a dream slinger in Korea, and basically Arya's kind of sent as a spy to work out what they're doing, because the two worlds are sort of, you know, Korea's been very kind of shut away. They've not really been out in the world, but all of a sudden they've said, we'll take, you know, people from across the world, we'll take so many people and we'll whittle them down, and we'll take 20 kind of students, which will then go on to learn more. And this is where then we learn stuff as Arya's learning stuff.
Right.
So although we know nothing at the beginning, and we're still not quite sure about some of the stuff that's happening, we're learning through her eyes, because she's seeing what she knows is normal in a different light.
Oh, I love that.
And she's kind of then torn between two things, you know, helping her dad by like spying on these people, but then she's kind of realising that actually there is another way we could be doing this, and although we've been told to push everything down and we're different and strange and dangerous, these people are embracing it, which is why they have this wood that they can make their gamma out of, which basically is from trees in the dream world that they can harvest into the real world and use that. Now, again, we know that if the greater world found that out, they would exploit that.
It's a resource just to be taken.
Yes, and all of a sudden people would be, you know, who could do that would be kind of in a laboratory somewhere, and you know, that kind of a thing. So she's a really interesting character, because you can see both sides of her. She's kind of getting torn. There's also another story going on, because her mum was killed, and so about 10-15 years ago there was a clash between the two sides and people were killed. Obviously the people in America assumed it was the other ones that started it. She kind of finds out that they kind of think that actually, you know, the other side started it, and her mum was killed at that point. And then she meets somebody else whose mum was also killed at that point on the other side. So she doesn't want to make friends. She wants to stay like in her own wee world, going through what she needs to go through, learning what she needs to learn, sending back secret messages to her dad and, you know, the people behind her dad to say, you know, this is going on. But at the same time, she does make friends. And one of the big things about what they're doing is their dream companion, which is their dream companion.
Oh, well done on getting that out.
That might not be true, but I'm saying it's true. And basically, in this place, in your dream world, there's 4 kind of sections to it. summer, spring, autumn and winter. And each kind of part has its own stuff going on. So when all these like novices come, they're kind of separated into, you know, each of these kind of seasons. She gets put into, I want to say spring. I might be lying there.
So it's like, I'm trying to compare it to things that we're familiar with, but like in a school story, like a house
It's
system.
exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's basically they're going to school,
Yeah.
they get separated into a house. So
Yeah.
instead of Slytherin, you know, she's put in
It's
you know,
spring.
spring.
Yeah.
And not that spring is anything like Slytherin, and that was a bad choice there. And basically each one has its own like motto, its own kind of thing, and its own dream companions. And she gets one, and what basically they're there to do is kind of plant a seedling and then watch it grow, and then you know, kind of
Lovely.
basically it's supposed to be like the part of your soul that is there when you're sleeping, kind of a thing. And of course she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't really believe in it, but then she gets a seedling and she's kind of has to go through the motions, and then of course you know that she's going to kind of, you know, quite like the dragon. So she does have this like beautiful dragon. The world itself is just brilliant. Gracie Kim, who I'd never heard of before, is an excellent world builder. So although, as I say, quite a lot of the time we've no idea what's going on at all, it doesn't matter, because there are still some things like that that are quite familiar that you can go, right, okay, this is basically just like a school, not even a magic school, it's just like a, you know, an all-girls school or whatever. You know, you've got your wee kind of the people that believe that they're there on merit, the people that believe that they're there, you know, for different reasons. But the world itself she builds is just perfect. There's a map, and you know I love a map. In fact, there's 2 maps. And there's this kind of touch of magic as well. There's kind of, you know, rivalries going on between, like, you know, the America kind of thing. One of the friends that she meets is New Zealand, and she's got like a kind of different take on it, and they're quite open to seeing what other countries do because they're not quite sure, you know, where to go, kind of a thing. And she's, I can't remember her name, but she's lovely. She's just one of these kind of like quite positive, like cheery kind of people. There's a brilliant librarian, and I'm not going to tell you anything about the library, but you will love the library. I'm going to tell you a wee bit. There's trampolines in the library. And the librarian herself is quite an unusual character as well. And I want there to be at least 4 books, because I think there's enough in here. It does end on a cliffhanger. There must definitely be at least 1 more book. There's enough in here for the world to build, and to see what happens. There's so much. You'll love it as well because of the connections between everybody.
And
It's
the
just
different, like getting to know different perspectives and like through just like becoming friends.
No, absolutely. And like what she thinks of her dad is actually not actually, you know, and then the people behind her dad, you know, that's different than what she thought at first as well. And just absolutely wonderful.
I think I might potentially have good news for you. I recognize the name Gracie Kim, and I'm pretty sure she's written a series under the Rick Riordan imprint, the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. So he's the one, his imprint is the one that tries to get different, like spotlight different cultures and authors from different cultures. And there's like a lot of different series from different parts of the US and the world. And I'm pretty sure she has a series. So that's what I was just trying to check when I was snooping in your book, whether this was a part of it. But no, this seems to be a new series. So there might be a completed series for you to explore if you like her world building and writing.
Would. And I like as well that they go to Korea and you get obviously some of that kind of is woven into what's happening there. So although these people with this gene are across the world, you know, you can see that different places do things differently. So they're the same, they've got the same gene, you know, but this country will do it differently than this country will do it differently. And obviously Korea, you know, we don't know, it's quite a closed place. So it was interesting to read kind of I'm assuming that she's kind of tied in some of their, not folklore and history, but that kind of thing into it.
Yeah.
You know, you'll love the food as well. There's loads of different food in it, which I'm assuming again she's kind of taken some of the food from there and kind of woven it in.
My mouth is already watering. I love Korean food, so
see,
yeah.
I don't know anything, anything. So as I say, and had this been a few years ago and I hadn't been persuaded by yourself to read our friend Naomi Novak, I possibly would have given up after, you know, the first wee bit, because I felt as if I didn't know anything and I couldn't really be bothered. But because of that, I kept going, and I'm really glad I did.
I mean, sometimes I think it can backfire, because you continue going on and you're like, actually, this book is terrible. But I'm glad in this case, and in Naomi's case, it didn't backfire.
Yes, exactly. I just want one other wee thing. So Aria has all these journals and things from her mum, who we know that's passed away. And one of our journals is highly specific emotions I didn't know that there were names for. And basically this is the one that she takes with her when she goes. So it's weird words, and like quite a lot throughout the book she kind of tells you. So she goes and she visits her mum before, you know, she kind of leaves at the graveside, and takes the book with her and kind of says, you know, I'm feeling like this just now and I'm feeling like that. And one of the words, now I apologise for the pronunciation, it's Welsh, of Welsh origin, Hirath maybe, and it's homesickness for a home to which you cannot return, or a longing for a home that never existed. And there's wee bits like that throughout the book that, you know, her mum's kind of words are there, and I did look a couple of them up, and they're not just made up words, you know, they are actually like words. And I'm going to stop gushing about it now.
That's lovely. I'm definitely going to read it. And her other series, I think, which is hopefully not imaginary, I've not just made this up, like your vehicle, your seaside transport.
It's not make up, and I will prove it later. One other thing I want to tell you about the Gamma though is that they all have their own personalities. So the first bit I read, which I skipped that bit out, likes ballet, so had feathers, and you know, when you were riding around in it, Swan Lake was playing. She has one where it's a pirate. It's almost like it's been a pirate ship at one point, because apparently they sometimes reuse the wood from other things.
I love that.
So everyone has its own personality. I'll not go through them all because I'm hoping you're going to read it.
100%.
There's one I think that's kind of an 80s aerobics thing. So it's kind of, you know, and just those wee touches to it. It just, everything adds to the whole.
I like writers who write things just to make themselves laugh.
Yeah,
They're like, we don't care if other people will laugh. I like this 80s aerobics reference, so I'm going to put it in.
And you felt as if this book was written by somebody who was really interested in it, that wasn't just writing for the sake of writing. You know, they wanted to get all this into it. So yeah, absolutely recommend it to everybody, but especially you.
I'm definitely going to put it on my list as soon as we finish recording. So I'm going to quickly go through both my books. There's not really much to say in terms of like, it's a pretty straightforward, like both of the books are pretty straightforward, and I love both of them. So not in like there's not much to say because they're horrible. So in this Golden Fleece, Esther Rutter basically decides to do a project. She's fed up of her job, so she decides to quit it, and she's like, I'm gonna do this project, this book project, where I'm gonna dedicate each month of the year, like from January, to a specific part of the UK. And their knitting tradition there, and I'm going to knit something like every month based on that. So I think she goes through, I don't remember all the places that she goes to, but like Shetland, Cornwall.
I feel as if this could have been a longer project than a year.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it could be a lifelong project, but it's fantastic. So she goes to like all these different places, and the kinds of why these, like a Guernsey or a Guernsey. So she goes to the Isle of Jersey, no, Jersey Island, whatever it's called.
Yes.
Guernsey and things. and she finds out like the history and like how people have engaged with knitting and why, in especially in like fisher communities,
I think that's
why
where it started, really,
yes,
isn't it?
and
Yeah.
like because the UK is so known for its knitwear,
Mhm.
like around the world. That and I love knitwear.
Mhm.
I didn't used to because in Mumbai you don't really need it. The coldest it gets in winter is like maybe 15, 14 maybe, which is a bright summer day
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Scotland. So I love collecting vintage jumpers, as you've seen my ever-growing collection. And I love like the sort of the history, learning the history behind it and the culture that it came from. Like Fair Isle, for example, she goes to this really popular wool week
Mhm.
in Shetland and she meets fellow knitting enthusiasts. But she also writes a lot of herself in it because a lot of the projects are quite personal.
Mhm.
So she decides this biggest project that she does is making a Gansey jumper for her father, which was like this proper fisherman's jumper. But she's like, it's such a big project and it's quite heavy to carry around. So she knits while she's traveling, like in the train and the bus and in the ferries and stuff. But that's really difficult to carry. So she has to like take a break. Then she makes a different kind. At one point, she knits herself a bikini from like an old-timey catalog, a
Ooh.
knitted bikini, which is quite brave, I think.
Uh-huh.
And there's also pictures of some of the things that she knits. No, I think all of the things that she knits, and also some of the. I'm just showing Jenny. Everyone else will have to watch, borrow the book. But all the museums that she visits, because she talks to a lot of experts. So not just like museum and academic experts, but also people who've been working with wool and knitting for years, for generations. Like their families have like been doing this. So learning about this sort of heritage through these different parts of the country and how it's meant different things to different people. But they're all like coming together because they have deep love for not just the craft and the art of it, but for the everyday practicality of it as well. And I loved that that was her focus for her travels, that, she'd like every month she'd go to a different part of the country or like perhaps multiple parts and just talk to people about something she loved and they loved. She's learning things along the way and she's teaching us things along the way as well. She also did her own research, reading about like that specific knitting history and culture. And she interweaves it so beautifully. So it doesn't feel, I mean, you are learning, but it's like, again, like, the kind of nonfiction I love, like a bit of memoir, a bit of like sort of that focused, the thematic thing, a little bit of travel, a little bit of just conversations and histories and things. So fantastic book, which is why I would want to recommend. It's from Glasgow, but it's just, I think a lot of people here, like we have knit and natters everywhere, like in like around Scotland, but also in North Lanarkshire. And I think people who probably maybe don't want to read nonfiction, but they're really interested in knitting or they really like clothes or something, or just history or travel. There is something that could attract different kinds of readers, I think, in this. And again, like super accessibly written, not doesn't feel like a chore to read. It was
Not
quite
dry
a joy.
and boring
No,
and-
because she's just a regular person, who just wanted to write a book about something she
Did they
loved.
have a new project?
I hope so. Well, at the end of the book, spoiler alert, her project was her baby. She discovered she was pregnant at some point in like
right,
while she
okay.
was traveling. So one of the things that she's gifted this really sort of important kind of wool for, and like a rare kind of wool by somebody, and just like a person who just gives it to who she started meeting. Lots of connections like that and lots of generosity. And she says that this needs to be something really like for some really important project. And then she discovers she's pregnant. So she starts knitting like baby socks and things for her child. And she's like, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I will have to look up because I would read like, I love reading books, writers writing their passions out and like making me excited about it as well. I mean, I anyway love knitwear, but I don't knit myself, so it was nice to see it from that perspective.
Ah.
So I think there's something for knitters there, but also for non-knitters like myself. So I would recommend this for sure. And
I do love the cover of it.
Isn't it
It's
beautiful? So it's
lovely.
like a knitted landscape,
Mhm.
and there's just different kinds of stitches as well that she talks about. So yeah, just fantastic. And then a quick stop at the last stop on Market Street, which is again a really lovely book. It's about a grandmother and her grandson who've just left church on a Sunday, and he's really grumpy at like lots of different things. He's like, it's a raining, we're getting wet. Oh, why do we have to take the bus? Why don't we have a car? Why don't I have earphones so I can listen to music? Like he's just like a child or like an adult, you're looking at things that you don't have and you wish you could.
Yeah, grumpy.
Whereas the grandma is like such a beautiful character because she's always looking at the world in a way that evokes the beauty and wonder of it rather than the everyday ugliness of it. Like even when they're walking through a really like graffiti strewn, like broken down buildings and things neighborhood, she keeps pointing out the beautiful things. And most of the book takes place in like a bus and the people that she meets in the bus, and it's a part of their journey. So this journey they're taking is like a weekly, every Sunday thing. So, they have the same driver and they have the same he has a magic trick every time for the boy. There's like a guitarist who starts playing the guitar. There are like these other friendly people that they have a conversation with. So this kind of, and in the end, they end up in a soup kitchen. And he's like, why do I have to come in? My friends are always playing on a Sunday and, they have their free time and things. But then by the end of the book, he realizes he actually does love this. How you are as well. You complain about maybe going to work on a windy day like it was today. Like, I just wish I was at home. And then something happens either along the way or maybe like when you're actually at the place that you're like, oh, okay, I guess this was nice and everything. So it was just very much about just the beauty of the everyday and things that you think are inconvenient. But actually why there are things beyond that that actually do make your life nicer. And it's through this bit of public transport, and obviously throughout the book you see that they don't have a lot of money, which is why, all the things that he's complaining about, which you can imagine as well, like a child whose family doesn't have a lot of money and then a friend has a lot and gets a lot. You can't help but make those comparisons as an adult. You can't help but make comparisons. But I think this is such a nice kind of way to just slow down and actually appreciate, which sounds quite preachy, but it's not a preachy book at all.
I think we should also tell people it's a picture book.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is a picture book.
If you didn't know that, you'd be like, oh, this is interesting.
Yes. No, it takes place in like such few words. I mean, maybe the page that I'm holding out for Jenny now might be the most, but otherwise there's not much words, and it's like simple sort of illustrations as well, like striking but in like not showy way. And it's like a poetry of a book. It's like a poem because you're feeling these things through this child's eyes, but you can also make connections to your own life in a way that maybe it doesn't apply word for word, but it's just a nice way to look at the world, I think. So I definitely recommend this one as well.
And it's a nice way to finish off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do we have in store for us next time?
So next time it will be Book Week Scotland.
Ah.
So we are going to go with their theme this time, give me a rest of thinking. And their theme this year is friendship.
Oh, that's great.
So between the 17th and the 23rd of November-ish, Book Week Scotland. Check out our libraries because there's lots of things happening during that time as well. Author visits and things like that.
Yes.
And as I say, the theme is friendship.
And I think the Book Week Scotland website has quite a lot of resources as well. So if that's something that you'd be into, so not just like author visits, but just stuff that's like recommendations and book lists and things. We'll have displays as well in the library around friendship themed books. But it doesn't need to be for a week. It can
be whenever you want.
Yes.
And friendship's a nice theme.
It is a good
it's
theme.
an important thing in the world.
Yes.
So
lovely.
Although I know that because of the way we choose books, it will not be your typical.
I have a classic in mind for it. So, or maybe it'll change.
Okay.
I have to keep us on our toes. But yes, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.